So let's get back to reality for a minute. Is a vaccine against religious fundamentalism even possible?
So if somebody asked me to design a vaccine for religious fundamentalism or fanaticism, basically what I would do is to try to better understand why people are fanatical. Why do they have extreme behavior? It's pretty clear these days that all behavior results from activity of our own brains, and so there must be pathways that are important in generating this kind of behavior.
So if indeed spirituality is this series of chemical reactions in the brain, and if it can be enhanced by certain types of drug, then naturally it follows that it could be inhibited as well, because for every activator there must be an inhibitor. And so I could easily imagine that under the right circumstances, the right stimuli or the right drugs or the right inhibitors might have some effect on a person's spirituality. At least in the short run. Whether or not that would have a long-term effect or people would undergo homeostasis and alter is an open question. We really don't know the answer to that.
It would be quite useful to eliminate some of the fanatical religious nuts in the world, and I think that maybe a vaccine would be the way to do that. It's difficult to know how successful it would be, but it's certainly an interesting idea. From the point of view of a medical professional, the question of spreading a virus that it has not been approved by regulatory agencies such as the FDA is a major issue. So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East. So the name of this project is funv, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
Now let's look at some examples of the God gene and some different articles. So here we have experimenting with spirituality, analyzing the God gene in non-majors laboratory course. So these are actual examples of when they've tested this VMAT2 gene. Okay, so in his book, The God Gene, How Faith is Hand-Wired into Our Genes, Dean Hammer argues that a variation of the VMAT2 gene plays a role in one's openness to spiritual experiences. Okay? Hammer contends that one's predisposition towards spirituality is influenced by genetic factors. More controversial, he proposes that the VMAT2 gene is one of the many potential genes that impinge on spirituality. He identifies one particular variation, a change from A to C. Here's another article in International Journal of Genetic Science, the VMAT2 gene, molecular study of 2,000 peoples in the religious behavior and belief in God of the citizens of the city of Tabriz in Iran. Abstract. Belief in God and worship in Him, a natural need in man's inner state that Adam and Eve, angel, has been retained to this day. Okay, so in this it's saying, but a gene, crucial role play in this need for God and nature of the gene VMAT2 is. In the role of this gene in the human being's religious behavior, we have evaluated. In this study of 2,000 people, of whom 1,000 religious and 1,000 others were less religious, were analyzed. The God gene hypothesis proposes that a specific gene called a vascular monoamine transporter, or VMAT2, predisposes humans towards spiritual or mystic experiences. The idea has been postulated by geneticist Dean Hammer, who we saw in the other book, the director of the Gene Structure and Regulation at the U.S. National Cancer Institute, the author of the 2005 book, The God Gene, How Faith is Hardwired into Our Genes. And so here it gets into the God gene hypothesis, and we're not going to go too much into the scientific details here, guys. I just want you to see that this actually exists, okay? Here's a schematic view of how the VMAT2 gene is in human cells. So this is a real thing. This is not, this is real scientific studies following this. The mystic experiences, including the presence of God and others, are identified by this gene, okay? So here's some DNA and RNA examples, and lots of discussion. This is a pretty long article, very technical, okay? But this is astonishing, okay? So here you have a microscopic view of the genes VMAT2 men participating in the study of nervous tissue. So they run different studies and watch their behavior and look at these genes, okay? Look at their interactions based on what the person is experiencing, whether they be a religious person or a non-religious person, okay? I just want you to see that this is a real thing, okay? These are real, kind of documents on the God gene. This does exist. There are books on it going back to 2005. And it was the Pentagon meetings that we saw back in 2005 where they discussed the ability to eliminate this in people. Okay? Now, guys, keep in mind we're going to get into some interesting things here. These are documents that we have going back from Rudolf Steiner. And this is a series of lectures compiled, and he looks at spiritual sciences, and he looks at how to eliminate spirituality in medicine. So let's take a look at what he had to say about vaccinating spirituality. A future vaccine to prevent the knowledge of soul and spirit. I want you to notice the date on this, guys. Look at what it says, October 7th, 1917. This is 100 years ago. They're talking about vaccinating against the soul and the spirit, okay? Notice what it says. The time will come, and it may not be far off, when quite different tendencies will come up at a Congress like held in 1912, when the people will say, it is pathological of people to even think in terms of spirit and soul. Sound people will speak of nothing but the body. So what he's saying is that at that time of Christianity and everything of 100 years ago was the main influence, but in the medical practice, in the thinking of the professionals, the spirit and the soul would be eliminated from practice, that you would only think of the body. And it will be considered a sign of illness for anyone to arrive at an idea of any such thing as a spirit or a soul. So that basically anybody is crazy to talk about the spirit or the soul. People who think like that will be considered to be sick. And you can be quite sure of it. A medicine will be found for this. Okay, a medicine will be found for those that are sick. Those that are sick are those that consider the spirit and the soul. The soul will be made non-existent with the aid of a drug. Let me say that again. The soul will be made non-existent with the aid of a drug. Taking a sound point of view, people will invent a vaccine to influence the organism as early as possible, preferably as soon as it is born. As soon as people are born, infants must be vaccinated against spirituality, so that this human body never even gets the idea that there is a soul or a spirit. Okay, this is the purpose of the vaccine. Heirs to the modern materialism will look for a vaccine to make the body healthy. That is, make its constitution such as this body no longer talks of such rubbish as soul and spirit, but takes a sound view of the forces by which that live in the engines of chemistry and let planets that arise in nebula and cosmos. And materialistic physicians will be asked to drive the souls out of humanity. The spirits of darkness are now among us. So this is another excerpt. Now this is, again, 1917. And it's talking about how demons are influencing those in the doctors, basically. I have told you that the spirits of darkness are now going to inspire their human hosts. Okay, demons are influencing people in whom they will be dwelling to find a vaccine. So demons are indwelling humans to create a vaccine that will drive all inclinations towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are still very young. And this will happen in a roundabout way through the living body. Today, bodies are vaccinated against one thing or another. In the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance which it will certainly be possible to produce. This will make them immune so that they do not develop foolish inclinations connected with spiritual life. Foolish here, of course, in the eyes of the materialists. A way will finally be found to vaccinate bodies so that these bodies will not be allowed the inclination towards spiritual ideas to develop, and their lives will believe only in the physical world. They perceive with the senses. This is merely to give you a particularly striking example of many things which will come in the near and more distant future of this field. The aim being to bring confusion into the impulses which want to stream down to the earth after victory of the, it says, Michael, spirits of light. Okay, so he's an occultist, guys. Everything he's saying is kind of opposite. But basically, you can see that clearly within these documents, within this mindset, it's apparent that the whole medical practice has eliminated the soul, eliminated the spirit, and gone about vaccinating to eliminate spirituality in the children, in the people. So the idea is to vaccinate as soon as possible against that.